Good early evening, everybody, and it's time to circle the wagons about a little bit of a news story that slipped under the radar of most people, including myself, by the way. This is, as of right now, news that is a few days old, and I didn't know about this until it had already happened, basically. This one kind of slipped under my radar as well, and ultimately, the event that occurred was defined by inaction more than action. And I think that when inaction is the name of the game, it becomes a little easier to miss it because ultimately, what this particular news story represents is the Seahawks choosing to not do something rather than do something. But I want to talk about it anyway because the inaction that they took a few days ago on Friday is significant. So let's talk about this and I'll try to explain it the best that I can. So I'm not going to read this whole article from Field Goals. If you want to read the whole article, then feel free to. I'm going to just try to sum it up the best that I can. So last Friday, so 3 days ago, it was, I believe, the fifth day of the league waiver period, meaning that several players on the Seahawks had guarantees in their contracts become vested. Basically meaning that by still being on the roster at that point in time, which was 3 days ago, they were guaranteed extra money in their contract whether or not they were released by the Seahawks. So, to put it short, we have conversations all the time about releasing certain players. Well, it just got a little less, in some cases, a lot less profitable to release a few Seahawks because their guarantees have now vested. So let's take a look at the four players who actually had this affect them. And a couple of them, well, okay, one of them nobody was really thinking about releasing anyway, so that one doesn't matter at all. DK Metcalf. I'm going to say it right now, I don't think anybody was talking about releasing DK Metcalf anyway. It wouldn't have made any sense from the start, so that's just kind of good for DK, but he was never getting released. But the other three guys, there were at least conversations about releasing. However, thanks to these guarantees becoming vested, it's extremely unlikely that that happens. And maybe it was already unlikely anyway, but if your offseason plans involved releasing one of the following three guys, time to change those plans. The three players are Will Dissly, Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams. Now, the effect in the case of Jamal Adams is minor, but present. The effect in terms of the Will Dissly contract is significant, and the Diggs contract is huge. So let's briefly go over exactly what this means in terms of like numbers and math and logic and reason. Quandre Diggs. Now, admittedly, I don't think that many people were thinking about releasing Quandre Diggs this offseason, but it was a possibility because it saved a significant amount of money. Now it does not. As of right now, Quandre Diggs' cap hit in 2023 is 18.1 million. 18.1 million. Previously, before Friday, if we had released him, the dead cap hit would have been 8.2 million. So we would have saved just shy of 10 million. However, because his base salary has become guaranteed because he was still on the roster as of Friday, the dead cap hit would now be about 21.7 million. So basically, it costs more money to release him than it does to keep him. You are now costing yourself an additional $3.6 million releasing him. The only way you can move off of Quandre now is via trade. If you trade him, the original cap hits apply. You would take on the dead cap hit of 8.2 and you would be saving 9.9. That is still the case if you are able to trade him, but a release is now not worth talking about. There's no way that we're actually going to release Quandre Diggs. Now, Quandre Diggs is a good enough player to where you could trade him. You wouldn't get a lot back in return because he's on a big contract, because There are problems with his game, but that's the only way now. And I don't think it's going to happen. I never really thought it was going to happen. I played with the idea for a little while, but either way, I don't think it's happening. But now we can remove any possibility of it happening. Now it's unfathomable to even imagine. So that's the big one. Quandre Diggs just went from probably being on the roster in 2023 to almost definitely being on the roster in 2023. Now Dissly, I don't think Dissly was in any danger of losing, of being released anyway, or traded for that matter. I can't imagine anybody trading for him. I think he's just kind of here for at least one more year guaranteed, and then we'll see what's up in 2024. That was always the plan, and that's fine. But the thing that people are really going to care about would be the Jamal Adams side of things. Now, it's not a huge change. We're talking about $2.56 million, but it is a change. You go over to Jamal Adams' Spotrac page, you can see the amount of dead cap if you release him has gone up by a couple $1,000,000. If you release him now, you're costing yourself an additional 5.8 million, whereas before it was only the 3.2. So releasing him got harder, and releasing him post June 1st. And to be clear, everybody who talked about releasing Jamal Adams was always talking about doing it post June 1st anyway. You can see that the cap savings have gone down by about 2.5 million. The cap savings for 2023 are now 8.44. Previously, they were 11. So basically, if you were going to release Jamal Adams, you should have done it before Friday. The fact that we haven't released him means it's not going to happen. And I've said before, I think that's okay. I got no problem with that. I think that's the right thing to do. I will say this, just for the sake of being completely open, you could trade him. If you trade him, the original amount of cap savings apply. But who's going to trade for Jamal Adams? I'll tell you right now, the answer is nobody. So that's kind of useless to even talk about. Nobody's trading for Jamal Adams. So basically, the team has decided we are going to move forward with Jamal Adams on the roster. And I think that's the right thing to do. But obviously, releasing him post June 1st was an option. Now it's... Look, I'll put it to you this way. If the team does it now, they just look like they were completely unprepared. They look stupid if they do it now. Because you should have done it before, when you could have saved an additional 2.5 million. Because it's not like you're going to play any games between now and June 1st. So if we release Jamal Adams now with the post June 1st designation, we look like we didn't know about this. We look incompetent. So I have to believe that means there's no plan to release him. And again, I suspect that's the right thing to do. Just go with it. Just live with the fact that, yes, he's overpaid. Yes, it was a bad trade. But that doesn't mean Jamal Adams isn't going to be a good player. You are going to have to get a little bit lucky with the injury stuff, of course. You are going to be holding your breath every snap he plays. But you're on this train for one more year. You just are. So I'm good with it. I believe that Jamal can be a phenomenal player when he's healthy. That when just doesn't happen nearly as much as I would like. Okay, so that's the update about the Seattle Seahawks. 4 guys got some additional guarantees, and all 4 guys you can pretty much pencil in, maybe even write it with a pen. They're going to be here in 2023. No releasing for these 4 guys. Let me know what you think down below. See you guys tonight. Go Hawks.